Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to break down a pretty controversial relationship strategy from our source material. It's called the mirror method. Now, it's presented as this powerful tool for dealing with conflict, but, well, as you're about to see, its approach is very specific. So let's get right into how it's supposed to work. So right off the bat, you can see the source material isn't pulling any punches. It frames the entire strategy with this incredibly intense question. I mean, using a term like emotional terrorism, it's making it clear we're not talking about a simple disagreement here. This whole thing is positioned as a defense mechanism for really high-stakes emotional situations. And that framing, it's absolutely key to understanding the mindset behind this method. So to really get what this method is all about, we have to start with the central analogy it's built on. The source uses this really powerful image of a forest fire to explain the dynamics of an emotional conflict. And notice how specific this metaphor is. It doesn't just say a fire or a flame. Nope, a forest fire. That choice of words is so deliberate, you know? It's meant to paint this picture of something huge, uncontrolled, and incredibly destructive. That's exactly how the source wants you to see these emotional outbursts. And here's where you see that analogy in practice. Over on the left, you have what the source calls providing emotional oxygen. This is what happens when you react. When you argue back, get defensive, you're essentially just fanning the flames and making that fire bigger and bigger. But then on the right, you have the proposed solution, cut the oxygen. The idea is that by not reacting, you starve the fire, and eventually it just burns itself out. Okay, so a forest fire is a great visual, but how do you actually use that idea? This next part gets into the real technique, the psychological why behind why the source claims that cutting the oxygen is so effective. The source gives this technique a name, reflective stoicism, and the definition here is absolutely crucial. Matching her investment level, but never exceeding it. So this isn't about being some cold, emotionless robot. The idea is to literally be a mirror. If the energy she's giving you is, say, a 3 out of 10, your response should also be a 3 out of 10, not a 7, not a 10.
And the process is broken down into this really simple 3-step loop. Step 1, just observe. What's the energy level you're actually getting? Step 2, reflect that exact same level right back. And then step 3, this is the golden rule of the whole method, never exceed her investment. The whole point is to stop yourself from overcompensating or trying to fix everything by throwing more energy at the problem than you're getting.
So what's the end game here? Why go through all the trouble of observing and mirroring? Well, according to the source material, this isn't just about ending an argument in the moment. The entire technique is framed as a direct strategy for commanding respect. And this quote, man, it really gets to the heart of the psychology behind this whole thing. The source is arguing that when you refuse to overinvest your emotions, you're sending this really powerful subconscious message that says, I am not terrified of losing you. It frames this kind of emotional non-reactivity as a total display of strength. And there it is. That's the logical conclusion the source comes to. It's a very direct, very absolute claim. It's not just saying this is a way to get respect. It's presenting this show of emotional independence as the only thing that truly commands it. Wow, that's a really bold statement. All right, so let's just quickly recap the big ideas here. The mirror method is pitched as a tactic for shutting down emotional conflict. It's all built on that memorable forest fire analogy. The actual technique is called reflective stoicism, which is all about mirroring emotional investment. And the whole purpose, according to the source, is to show a kind of emotional independence that in the end commands respect. Which, brings us to the big central question this whole method really raises. Is a strategy like this a genuine way to build respect in a relationship? Or is it just a path to disengagement? A way where mirroring someone's low investment just becomes the beginning of the end for any real connection? That's the key tension here, and it's definitely something to think about. Thanks for tuning in.